Hi, and welcome to Partnerships, Leveraging the Power of Our Voices and Resources Through Social Media. I'm Stephanie Moss. I work at the Region B Parent Technical Assistance Center at Parent to Parent of Georgia and also with the Early Childhood TA Center.
Hi, I'm Ben Reapy. I'm a TA specialist for ECTA and for National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations.
And my name is Eliana Tardillo. I work at NCSI and West Ed, and we are here together as a part of the Team Early Childhood Social Media Initiative, and we are going to be talking about social media and how to make this happen.
So as we get started today, we want to tell you a little bit about how we got to here. The importance of collaborative partnerships, as you all know, was never more apparent and more necessary than during the pandemic. As families and professionals turned almost entirely to social media and technology for information and resources, parent centers and early childhood TA centers across the country embraced this new normal and turned to social media to get information out to families. So we're going to talk today with you a little bit about how we did that, what that looks like, how we planned and implemented this social media campaign, and hopefully give you some ideas about how you can make it happen in your own area of expertise. The contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2022 OSEP conference. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. We hope today, in the time we have together, you will gain some knowledge and understanding of the power of combining forces for cultivating new audiences, how consistency is crucial for growth, some information about the objectivity behind data collection in all our roles as centers, and most importantly, perhaps some of the lessons we learned and practical ways to create and apply your own initiative to get information to your stakeholders. So how did we get started? We are all part of a larger collaborative of early childhood TA centers across the country that meet regularly with OSEP and parent centers. And we've been working together to think about best ways to meet the needs of families and systems. And a while back, there was some brainstorming that we needed a social media campaign. We needed a public awareness effort to get all of the wealth of resources that we all have and have created into the hands of families, the people who need it the most. So we looked to social media as a way to make that happen. And in the process of curating content and figuring out how to use it and disseminate it through Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, other social media platforms, we would really raise awareness, not only of the resources, but of all the centers and all the good work that's being done out there. So this is an ongoing campaign and one that we hope that you'll actually get excited to learn about and maybe even choose to follow and share after today's session. We've learned a lot over the past year or more and hopefully can share some of that with you. So tell you quickly about how it worked. Let me first say we learned a lot and we brainstormed a lot of different ideas, a lot of different formats, and ultimately landed on a process and a procedure that we think works and doesn't leave the burden of the work on any one person or any one center. So where we are now is that we have a number of participating centers, and we've begun to engage more centers, particularly across the parent center network, in participating in this campaign and sharing this information. And we asked centers to volunteer to take over social media for a month. So that means that they either curate content, create content, or kind of reproduce good stuff that they want to get into the hands of families for that month. We asked them to come up with a minimum of 8 to 10 posts that there are pieces of content that they'll share throughout that month, and they will put that out across their networks, the social media platforms that they use. There's no requirement that they use a certain platform, one or the other, but just that they put that out there. We came up with a common hashtag. You see there, ECFAM resources. And Ileana's going to talk a little bit later about hashtags and why that's so critically important. But part of the process, if you're taking over for the month, is that every bit of content you share has to be accompanied by that hashtag. Then all of the rest of us as participating centers, if it's not my center and I'm not signed up for, say, May or June, I'm responsible for following that other center, for looking for their content, for reposting, resharing, and always using that same hashtag. And if I happen to not find their content, I miss their content, I can also search for content using that hashtag and then help to push it out across my networks. Ideally, with this kind of format, what we learned is, nobody, like I said, nobody has the burden of doing a lot of work. Nobody has to take over more than maybe once a year. So it's really not a super heavy lift. We feel like it's pretty doable and pretty manageable, even if you're not in a position or an organization where you have a dedicated social media person. We hear that a lot. Well, I don't have someone who does social media for us. That's one of my duties. I have all these other duties and I still have to do social media. This is not a heavy lift, and it seems to be working. So we hope that it's something that you feel like you might be able to replicate.
Yeah, so that was one of the lessons that we learned over the last couple of years, was that we had this big group of people who had a lot of knowledge on content and not as much knowledge on the social media domain, the present company excluded, not me, but other folks on this call, who really understood. You need someone like that. You need a social media expert in your. It's very, very valuable to have that person that can kind of walk you through the hows and whys of hashtags and everything else. And you need a small core group of people to help chisel out the process piece. But when we tried with topics, like this is the topic for May, this is the topic for June, this is the topic for, some folks would bring materials, some folks wouldn't. There wasn't, it was a little bit messy. So it's okay for if the beginning phases are messy, stick with it, be patient, know that there's eventually going to be a group of people that are super dedicated, that are going to work through things, and the others are going to be, once you have a good process that works for your team, they will also participate. They will also have that going. But we had to have a small group take over. The takeover month worked really well for the whole group, because it is just like, all I have to focus on is February. We get all our stuff in February, and then all I have to do is be part of that new term for me, amplification group. All you have to do is follow the hashtag, and now you can get things going. Not everybody has to be an expert in everything in order for this to work. You just need to be an expert in your thing, know your role, and keep moving forward. Okay, go ahead and move it forward. Thanks. Moving it forward. There you go.
And I think we will say that the goal for our group was to achieve consistency. That was the piece that make everything work. So we believe that consistency is crucial for growth. We know that consistency is a skill that we develop when we have a plan. So we need that plan to be drafted. We need to review that plan. Ben was just saying it wasn't easy. Stephanie was saying it wasn't easy. We require a lot of meetings. And I think the most important was to realize that, yes, not everyone is an expert on social media. However, we have people that they are experts on content. We have people that they produce content and resources. And all of us, we have passions for serving families. So we have to connect to that passion and understand that that is going to be the foundation for everything. So you have to start with a plan, and that is going to be what kind of content you are going to be sharing. The content is going to be created, basically is going to be shared by everyone that is working in partnership. This is going to give everyone an opportunity to shine. This is going to be an opportunity for everyone to use those resources that probably you have created and you have somewhere in there, and they are not being used because you didn't have enough opportunities for amplification. So that's the other part about this, the opportunity about opening a door that we usually don't use in this world, right? So the frequency is not consistency. That's important to make that clarification. So when we think about frequency, goes inside the consistency, and frequency is gonna allow everyone who follows you to know that the content is gonna be presented like every day or every 2 days. And so that's the way in which you're gonna be building that trust. So consistency relies heavily on branding. In this case, we were using the hashtag. We are using the hashtag ECFAM resources. That is our branding. And the hashtag is basically grouping all our efforts and is telling people this is our group working together. So yes, this is reliable content. This is content funded by the Department of Education with federal funds, so you can trust this content. So at the same time, we are also working on leadership and on representation. This builds trust and reliable resources for the community, for our clients. And what we want to achieve at one point is that when there is a new family in need of resources for early childhood, everyone will know that the EasyFam Resources hashtag is going to be basically grouping these reliable resources. And instead of going and looking in every one of our pages, they can tell families, go ahead and look for the hashtag, and you are going to be able to find all this information that you can trust. So there is objectivity behind data collection in our role as centers, and something that we have to be very objective when we think about parent centers and all centers funded by federal funding is that we are not influencers. Many times it happens that we get disappointed or we feel like I'm not getting enough likes. This is not the way to measure your success because the information that we are providing is educational. So many times it's not competitive. We cannot compete with a fashion blogger. However, we can deliver information, and many times we are not going to get a like because we are dealing with families that are going through stressful moments. That doesn't mean that they are not consuming the information and that they don't need the information. So have high but real expectations. In the corporate world, if we reach 25% of the target audience, it is considered a success. So yes, use that as a way to understand that anything below 10% for non-for-profits is ideal. When we think about a steady growth, we are thinking about growing between 0.64 to 2.2% monthly, which means that probably we are talking about 10 new followers. We are talking about 20 new followers. It's not that we are talking about 1,000 or 100,000. Amplification is powerful, but anonymous is another important piece. We have this tendency to believe that only names and last names make an impact. When we think about social media, we cannot collect names, we cannot collect the last name, but we can be sure that this is people that live in our target area. And so it's going to be anonymous, but anyways, we are amplifying. And that's the new voice for the new generations. Probably they are not going to pick up the phone and give you all their information, but if they go to your platforms on social media, they are going to be using the information that they need, even if you never know who they are, right? So social media for good is impactful, not competitive, again, and data translate to a storytelling, not necessarily to traditional data collection. And with this, I mean that there are cases in which you are not going to be able to translate this into a graphic, but you can come to a board meeting and say, we had this comment from a family saying this information really changed my life. Or we have this family coming to us and saying, I have been like downloading your information, and thanks to this information, I was able to participate in the IFSP. So we are going to find ways to use the data in an innovative way, understanding that, again, the impact is not going to be about numbers, but about changing lives.
And speaking of storytelling, Eliana, the families don't listen to stories that are being told by the random person at the 7-Eleven, right? They need to have, or the Hy-Vee, they need somebody
Exactly.
who they trust, just like you were describing. And while it was hard for us to determine what is the track that we're taking, we're going to focus on families and getting resources in the hands of families. There was the temptation to reach out to teachers or administrators, all these other folks, but no, we're focused on the families. And so that meant it was easier for them to trust that the resources with that hashtag were in fact related for them, not for teachers. Yeah.
Right.
But the difference, a lot of families don't know the resources that are available, the resources that are available from Head Start, from ECTA, from NCPMI, from the family centers. They may not know, but they may know Stephanie from the family center. They may know Eliana from her work. They may know one of us. And if they know and trust that source, and that source is holding up the resources of another location, they may say, I trust Stephanie enough to listen to this. I trust Eliana enough to look at this site. I may not trust Ben because I don't know him, but if Stephanie's holding his work up, maybe it's a good thing too. And that's how we can build off each other's work and increase the likelihood that families get access to these really powerful strategies that are available, that exist, but just aren't being utilized. And it's a chance for us to potentially collaborate with each other in the future as well, to know as we're looking at other people. So as we're posting each other's stuff, is to look and say, hey, they have this resource on this, and that was something we were going to develop. And so instead of wasting all that extra time and resources, we can think about what's the next thing that we want to do to support family and children.
And I would like to add something to end. There's another piece that is extremely important, that is social responsibility on social media. There's a lot of information out there that is not always the best information. However, it becomes viral because it is presented in ways that attract people. So thinking about that, we have to take action. We have to make this happen. Again, doing this as a center probably is not gonna work because we are small centers compared to the monster that social media is. But working in collaboration can really help us work together and be sure that we achieve that social representation and we have that social responsibility to actually make social justice in social media, which means bringing reliable and good information to families. They are gonna go there and look for early childhood resources. The more we work together, the more they are gonna be able to find information that they really need and they can trust.
Yeah, I think of so many, sorry, Stephanie, I think of so many other organizations that like have, share your information here, but it's not based on science. So it's problematic that those things get held up, but this work is not. Stephanie, go ahead.
Well, and I was just going to add to like Eliana's point we're not all in giant organizations that have that power and that influence. For some of our smaller organizations out there, smaller parent centers,
yeah.
I think other kind of like what's in it for you thing that I would like to encourage you to think about is this is readily available content from reputable centers across the country. If you're looking to build your own social media presence so that more people do recognize your center, the value of the high quality resources that you're sharing, follow this campaign, and it's a great way to build your own presence and also benefit the families that you're serving by sharing more of those resources out there. And again, to translate that to, if you were looking to build a completely different social media campaign, maybe it's on post-secondary transition for older kids, the same rules apply. You're just looking for different collaborative partners who are going to share equally as reputable, high quality resources to families.
And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to use all the wheels that they are already out there. And sometimes we forget that we are right, like that we have them in our basically backyard. So we have to work together.
And there's a resource handout. Are you gonna go ahead, Stephanie?
No, go ahead, Ben. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a handout that kind of walks through some of the big pieces that you can use. But just in case we haven't disclaimed enough, we just wanted to remind everyone that the contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2022 OSEP conference. However, the contents do not necessarily represent the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. We're just very grateful to have you here, and she's going to share what that resource looks like.
So here we have the resource that we created that you're going to be able to download with this presentation. And here you can see like very easy to follow how to create a social media partnership team. This is based on our experience. And I think the most important part is to remind you that we are here, that we are available, that we are going to be happy to help. And again, Stephanie, if you would like to share more about the success of our campaign, I think that's important. So you realize that, again, it was not easy at the beginning, but we are very happy at this point with the results.
Yeah, I know you said it wasn't about the likes or the views or whatever, but I can't tell you how excited I was to see the data on my month when our numbers jumped up like 30% or whatever. It was really pretty exciting. So that's just me. But go ahead.
And I would say, yeah, and I would say I'm in one of those centers where it is just one more thing I do. We don't have someone who just focuses on social media. And so the ability to have this content and to be able to post and share, for us, it actually has yielded, it's really encouraged us to use more social media platforms on a regular basis than just Facebook, which is a nice, we've talked about, we talk about wanting to grow our presence and use some other platforms to reach different families who might use something different. This has been a way to do that. It's been really helpful to do that. And we have definitely seen some growth there as well.
Exactly. And here you're gonna see some information about data collection, just an example of the data that we have collected, and a reminder that social media is considered to be big data, which means that it cannot be broken into small pieces, but the most important is to see what is the influence that we have in our communities and realize that we are basically changing the world with every post, because we are creating a new opportunities for families to find the information, and again, reliable and good information that is going to help them become those advocates for their families. You're going to find some good resources in here too. That is how to use a hashtag, Twitter hashtag analytics, where to find information, tools to save time on social media, and social media terms in case you would like to learn, the terminology and the lingo of social media. Is an adventure, but it's a good investment of your time because this is the language that we are speaking these days.
So I think on that last slide, or next to the last slide, you had all our contact information. So
yes,
please feel free, like Ileana said, we're here to help, we're here to support. Please reach out to us if you have questions. And thank you for joining us for our session.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone. Thank you.